The quality of your life is a reflection of the standards you choose to live by. If your standards stay low, your life will stay the same. But the moment you decide to raise them, everything begins to change. Think about it. How many times have you let things slide that you knew were holding you back? Maybe you stayed around people who didn't push you forward. Maybe you accepted habits that drained your energy. Maybe you told yourself this is enough, when deep down you knew you were capable of more. That's the turning point. Realizing that you don't have to live by average rules anymore. When you raise your standards, you set a new level for what you expect from yourself and from life. That choice is powerful. It's the difference between struggling with the same problems year after year and finally attracting the life you know you deserve. Chapter 1. Raise your standards by refusing average choices every day. When I talk about raising your standards, I mean making a decision that you will no longer live your life at the level of average choices. Every day, you face decisions that shape your future. What time you wake up, how much energy you bring to your work, what food you put into your body, the kind of people you give your attention to, the way you handle your money, the way you manage your emotions. All of these are choices, and if those choices are guided by the standard of just enough to get by, you end up building a life of just enough. That's the reality many people face, and it's the trap that holds them back. The moment you raise your standards, you declare that you won't accept that kind of life anymore. You begin to create a better life by demanding better from yourself. Think about it. Average choices are easy because they don't require effort. Average means taking the comfortable road, doing what everyone else is doing, living in a way that avoids discomfort. It's easier to stay in bed instead of getting up early. It's easier to eat what feels good now instead of what fuels your body. It's easier to spend money on things you don't need than to save and invest for your future. It's easier to keep the same circle of friends, even if they pull you down, than to face the loneliness of letting go. But here's the truth. Every time you choose average, you confirm to yourself that this is all you deserve. Raising your standards is a personal decision. Nobody can raise them for you. You may be inspired by others, you may even be challenged by life, but the real turning point comes when you decide you're done with average. That decision is not made once, it's made every single day. When you wake up in the morning, you either raise your standard for how you start your day, or you let yourself slide back to average. When you sit down to work, you either raise your standard for what you'll produce, or you let yourself do the minimum. Life is asking you daily, what are your standards? And your actions answer that question. Now, some people think raising standards means perfection. It doesn't. Raising standards means you refuse to accept less than what you're truly capable of. It means you push past what's easy and you go for what's necessary to build the life you want. For example, if your standard for health is I'll eat whatever I want, then your body will pay the price. If your standard is I'll only eat food that strengthens me, then your body and energy will reflect that choice. If your standard for work is I'll do enough to keep my job, then that's all you'll ever have, a job that just keeps you surviving. But if your standard is I'll deliver more than is expected, then you attract opportunities, promotions, and trust that others don't. There's also a psychological power to raising your standards. Humans live according to what they believe they deserve. If you raise your standards, you raise your sense of what you deserve, and when you believe you deserve more, you begin to act differently. You don't tolerate lazy behavior from yourself. You don't stay in toxic relationships. You don't waste time in meaningless activity. You demand more from your hours. You demand more from your habits. You demand more from your mind. That inner shift is what attracts a better life. People think attraction is something magical. It's not. Attraction is the byproduct of alignment. When you align your standards with excellence, your life naturally rises to that level. So ask yourself, where in your life have you been settling for average? Look at your daily routines. Look at your relationships. Look at how you treat your health. Look at your finances. Look at your personal growth. Somewhere in those areas, you'll find patterns of average decisions that have been stealing from your future. The truth can sting, but it's necessary, because once you see it, you can change it. Raising your standards begins with small but firm action. Wake up 30 minutes earlier than usual and use that time to build yourself. Read instead of scrolling through meaningless updates. Choose water over soda. Save 10% of your income before spending anything. Speak with respect even when you're frustrated. Set a rule for yourself that you won't lie, not even small lies. These may sound simple, but they are powerful. Each one is a standard, and when you commit to them, you start attracting discipline, respect, energy, and opportunity. Now, why is it so hard to do this? Because average feels safe. If you go higher, you risk failing. You risk standing out. You risk people saying, "Who do you think you are?" And many people would rather blend in than raise their standards. But think about this. Blending in keeps you invisible, and if you stay invisible, life passes you by. Nobody sees you for who you really are because you've hidden behind average. When you raise your standards, you will lose some people. Friends who are comfortable in average will not understand you. They may even criticize you. But that's the cost of growth. Every better life requires a trade. You trade comfort for growth. You trade acceptance from the crowd for respect from yourself. You trade short-term pleasure for long-term fulfillment. Those are the trades that create transformation. One of the most powerful areas where you need to raise your standards is in your self-talk. What do you tell yourself when nobody else is listening? Do you say "I can't" or do you say "I must"? Do you say "this is enough" or do you say "I know I can do better"? Your standards are not only what you do on the outside, they are also what you demand from your inner voice. If your inner voice keeps accepting average, your outer life will follow. But if your inner voice pushes for more, even when it's hard, your outer life will eventually reflect that. You also need to raise your standards in your goals. Many people set goals that are too low. They think if they just pay the bills, they're doing okay. But if your goal is survival, your choices will always be average. Raise your standard to build wealth, to build freedom, to build a strong family, to build influence, to build a body that carries you with energy. These goals will require higher standards of daily discipline. And as you push toward them, your life transforms. Think about your time. Time is life. If your standard is that your time can be wasted on meaningless entertainment for hours every day, then don't be surprised when your life feels empty. Raise your standard for your time. Decide that each hour must be used in a way that builds your health, your relationships, your finances, or your growth. That doesn't mean you never rest or enjoy. It means your rest is intentional. It means your entertainment serves as refreshment, not an escape from responsibility. If you want a better life, look at your relationships. Who you spend time with is shaping your standards more than you realize. If your friends make excuses, you'll find yourself making excuses. If your friends complain, you'll start complaining. But if your friends demand more from themselves, you'll naturally start demanding more from yourself. So raise your standards for your circle. Spend less time with those who settle, and more time with those who rise. Here's another truth. Raising your standards often feels uncomfortable. It feels unnatural because you're breaking patterns. But discomfort is a sign you're leaving average behind. If you feel the stretch of waking up earlier, good. If you feel the challenge of saving money when you used to spend freely, good. If you feel the tension of speaking up when you used to stay quiet, Good. Those feelings are proof that your standards are rising. What kind of life do you want? A life of regret or a life of pride? Regret comes from average standards. Pride comes from high standards. Years from now you will look back on today and you will ask yourself, did I raise my standards or did I stay average? The answer will be written in your health, in your relationships, in your achievements, in your legacy. So today make the choice, not just in words, but in action. Refuse average choices. Refuse average food. Refuse average effort. Refuse average relationships. Refuse average goals. Because every time you say no to average, you are saying yes to a better life. And when you string enough of those choices together, you wake up one day realizing you've built a life that most people only dream of. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. A better life is not given. It is attracted by the standards you set and the standards you live. Raise them today and keep raising them every day that follows. Because the future you want is waiting on the standards you're willing to demand right now. Chapter 2. Attract a better life by setting clear personal rules. If you want to attract a better life, you must begin by setting clear personal rules. Rules are not about restriction, they are about structure. Without them, life becomes chaotic. Choices lose direction and progress slows down. People often wonder why their lives feel stuck or why they can't seem to achieve meaningful results. The answer is almost always the same. They are living without rules. They drift, they react, they move wherever the wind takes them. But when you establish clear personal rules, you create a foundation that keeps you grounded and aligned with the life you want. Think of rules as the standards you enforce on yourself, regardless of how you feel in the moment. Feelings change. Motivation rises and falls. Some days you feel like working hard, and other days you don't. If you depend on mood, you will live inconsistently. But when you have rules, your behavior is not left to chance. Your rules remind you of what you promised yourself. For example, a personal rule might be, I exercise at least 30 minutes every day. It doesn't matter if you feel tired, bored, or unmotivated. If it's your rule, you follow it. And by doing so, you build consistency, and consistency creates results. Clear rules give you clarity. One reason people struggle is that they don't know what's non-negotiable in their lives. They may say they value health, but without rules, their choices show otherwise. They may say they want success, but without rules, they fall into procrastination. Words alone don't create transformation, rules do. A person who says I don't drink alcohol has set a clear rule, and that rule shapes their behavior in every situation. A person who says I save 10% of every paycheck before spending has created a financial rule that builds stability over time. These rules act like a compass, guiding your behavior even when temptation arises. Why are personal rules so powerful? Because they take decision-making out of the moment. Many poor choices are made in moments of weakness, stress, or pressure. If you wait until you're in the middle of temptation to decide, chances are you'll give in. But if you've already set the rule, the decision has been made in advance. For instance, if your rule is I never spend more than I earn, then when you're tempted to buy something unnecessary, you already know the answer. No. That rule protects you from financial trouble. If your rule is I only surround myself with positive influences, then you know immediately who to step away from when negativity surrounds you. Setting rules also builds self-respect. Every time you follow a rule you've set for yourself, you prove to yourself that your word matters. And every time you break one, you weaken your own trust in yourself. Many people struggle with self-confidence, not because they're incapable, but because they repeatedly break promises to themselves. They say they'll wake up early, but they hit snooze. They say they'll stop eating junk, but they keep indulging. Over time, they stop believing in their own words. When you create personal rules and stick to them, you rebuild that trust. You begin to feel proud of yourself again, and that pride is magnetic. It draws better opportunities, stronger relationships, and greater success. The kind of rules you set will depend on the kind of life you want. If you want a healthy life, your rules must cover what you eat, how you move, and how you rest. If you want a successful career, your rules must cover how you use your time, how much effort you give, and how you continue to learn. If you want meaningful relationships, your rules must cover how you communicate, how you show respect, and how you set boundaries. The clearer your rules, the more direct your path becomes. But rules are not meant to be endless. If you create too many, you will feel trapped and overwhelmed. Start with a few essential ones, rules that address the areas that matter most to you. These are the rules that will define your identity. For example, I always keep my word. That single rule could transform your reputation and relationships. Or, I study for 1 hour every day. That single rule could transform your knowledge and opportunities over time. The power lies in consistency, not quantity. One of the mistakes people make is treating rules like preferences. A preference says, I'll try to eat healthy. A rule says, I don't eat food that harms my body. A preference says, I'll try to work harder. A rule says, I complete my work before I rest. When you treat rules like preferences, they fall apart the moment you feel tired or discouraged. But when you treat them as absolute, they hold firm even in difficult. That firmness builds discipline, and discipline attracts the better life you're looking for. Now, rules don't only shape your actions, they shape how others see you. People recognize and respect those who live by clear standards. If you say no to gossip, people note. If you always arrive on time, people trust you. If you never compromise your values, people admire you even if they don't agree with you. And when people respect you, they treat you differently. They offer you opportunities, they include you in important conversations, and they see you as reliable. In this way, your personal rules don't just change your inner world, they change how the world responds to you. To attract a better life, you need rules in areas that directly influence your future. Begin with health, because without it, nothing else matters. Create rules about sleep, nutrition, and movement. Decide the minimum number of hours you sleep each night. Decide the kind of food you will allow and the kind you won't. Decide how often you will exercise. These rules create energy, and energy fuels everything else. Next, focus on your finances. Money influences the quality of your life, and without rules it slips away quickly. Set rules about saving, spending, and investing. Decide a percentage you will always save. Decide you won't borrow for things that don't create value. Decide to track your spending each week. These rules build security and open the door to freedom. Then look at your time. Time is the most valuable resource, yet most people live without rules for it. Decide how many hours you dedicate to growth each day. Decide how many hours you give to entertainment. Decide how much time you spend with people who inspire you. If you don't rule your time, distractions will. Clear rules protect your hours and ensure they're invested wisely. You also need rules for relationships. Decide how you will treat others and how you expect to be treated. For example, you might set a rule to never raise your voice in anger, or a rule to never stay in relationships where disrespect is repeated. These rules protect your emotional health and attract people who share your values. And don't forget rules for your personal growth. Decide how often you will read, what kind of content you allow into your mind, and how you will continue to develop skills. A rule like I learn something new every day may sound small, but over years, it transforms your level of wisdom. The important thing is that your rules must be personal. They should come from your vision, not someone else's. Don't set rules just because others tell you to. Set rules because they represent who you want to become. When your rules match your vision, They give you power. It's also important to revisit your rules over time. Life changes, goals shift, and your vision evolves. Some rules will need adjustment as you grow. What matters is that you always live by some form of clear personal structure. Without it, you direct your life toward better results. Think about how you feel when you live without rules. You wake up late, you waste hours, you give in to temptations, you feel regret, and you go to bed knowing you could have done more. That feeling eats at your self-worth. But when you live with rules, you wake up with purpose, you know what you will do, you follow through, and you end the day with pride. That pride builds momentum, and momentum is the path to a better life. There's no magic in this. It's not about luck. It's not about talent. It's about structure. Rules create structure. Structure creates consistency. Consistency creates results, and results create the life you want. If you want to attract better, you must live better, and living better requires rules that guide you when your emotions or environment try to pull you off course. So begin today. Write down 3 rules that will change your life if you follow them. They don't need to be big. They just need to be clear. And once you write them, commit to them fully. The moment you do, you'll feel the shift. You'll feel stronger because you've taken control. You'll feel focused because you know your boundaries. And over time, you'll notice your life aligning with the better future you desire. Attracting a better life is not about chance, it's about choice. And the clearest way to choose is by setting rules that keep you in line with your highest standards. Decide your rules, live by them, and your life will rise to meet them. That's how you build a future worth living. Chapter 3. Demand higher effort from yourself in every small task. When you demand higher effort from yourself in every small task, you set the tone for the kind of life you're going to live. Too many people wait for big opportunities before they decide to give their best. They treat the small things as if they don't matter, as if effort should only be reserved for something grand. But the truth is that your entire life is built on the small tasks you do each day. The way you carry out those tasks determines how you show up when the bigger ones arrive. If you cut corners in the little things, you create the habit of cutting corners everywhere. If you hold yourself to a higher effort even in the details, you build a mindset that refuses mediocrity. Excellence is not something you switch on when the moment feels important. Excellence is a lifestyle, and it shows up in the way you approach the everyday. Think about the way you make your bed, the way you organize your workspace, the way you write an email, the way you complete an assignment, or even the way you listen when someone is talking to you. These are small actions, but each one is a reflection of your standards. If you do them with half effort, you train your mind to accept half effort as normal. If you do them with focus and energy, you train yourself to approach everything with strength. The danger of neglecting small tasks is that you don't see the consequences immediately. You can let dishes pile up in the sink, and it doesn't destroy your life overnight. You can hand in average work at your job, and nobody may notice right away. You can avoid exercise for a few weeks, and your health doesn't collapse instantly. That's what makes it so easy to neglect them. But small neglect repeated consistently leads to collapse over time. On the other hand, demanding more from yourself in those very same areas doesn't show instant results either. But over time, the benefits become undeniable. Health improves, opportunities grow, relationships strengthen, and self-respect increases. When you hold yourself to higher effort in every small task, you also break free from the habit of waiting for motivation. Most people only give effort when they feel inspired. That's why their lives look inconsistent. Sometimes they shine, sometimes they disappear. But when you make effort non-negotiable, feelings stop controlling your behavior. You don't ask yourself whether you're motivated, you just do it because it's your standard. That's the difference between living a disciplined life and drifting through one. There's also a deep psychological effect here. Every time you give your best to something small, you send a message to yourself. I am someone who takes pride in what I do. That message builds confidence. Confidence doesn't come from talking yourself into it. It comes from doing what you said you would do, and doing it with focus. Each small task you complete with effort becomes proof that you can be trusted. The stronger that proof, the stronger your belief in yourself becomes. And with belief comes courage to take on bigger challenges. Let's take work as an example. Imagine you're given a simple report to complete. You could do the minimum, just enough to check the box, or you could approach it with precision and care. If you give half effort, you stay invisible. You become just another person doing just enough. But if you give higher effort, even in something small, people notice. They see you as reliable. They trust you with more responsibility. And when promotions or opportunities appear, you are the one chosen because your effort has already spoken for you. This is how small tasks open the door to larger achievements. This principle applies just as much in your personal life. If you demand higher effort in how you treat your family, your relationships become deep. If you demand higher effort in how you take care of your body, your energy multiplies. If you demand higher effort in how you manage your finances, you build security. Every small action is connected to a larger outcome, but you must connect the dots in advance. One of the excuses people make is this task doesn't matter, so why should I give it my all? That's a dangerous mindset because the way you do one thing is often the way you do everything. If you build the habit of doing something with low energy, you carry that habit with you into other areas of life. It's not about whether the task itself matters to the world. It's about whether the task matters to your character. Every time you lower your effort, you lower your own expectations of yourself. And every time you raise it, you strengthen the identity of someone who demands excellence. Think about athletes. The best athletes don't just train hard when they're in the spotlight. They train hard when nobody's watching. They demand higher effort from themselves in practice, in diet, in recovery, in every detail. That's why they perform at an elite level when it matters. They've trained their bodies and minds to treat effort as the default, not the exception. You don't have to be an athlete to adopt this mindset. You simply need to decide that the standard you hold yourself to will not change based on whether the task is small or large. There's another important benefit. Demanding higher effort in small tasks makes life more meaningful. When you take pride in how you sweep the floor, how you wash your clothes, how you write in your journal, you turn ordinary actions into expressions of character. Life is not just about big achievements. Most of it is made up of small daily tasks. If you learn to approach them with higher effort, your whole experience of life improves. You stop rushing through everything. You start treating each action as an opportunity to practice discipline, to practice focus, to practice self-respect. It's worth remembering that higher effort doesn't always mean working harder. Sometimes it means being more thoughtful, more precise, more intentional. For example, higher effort in a conversation might mean truly listening instead of waiting for your turn to speak. Higher effort in managing money might mean tracking your expenses carefully instead of spending blindly. Higher effort in studying might mean reviewing your notes again, even when you feel like you already understand. Effort is not always about sweat. It's about caring enough to do it well. Demanding higher effort also protects you from regret. At the end of the day, you never regret giving your best. But you do regret knowing you could have done more. Regret builds when you look back on tasks, opportunities or moments, and realize you gave less than you were capable of. Over time, that regret grows heavy. By raising your effort, you eliminate that weight. You go to bed at night knowing you gave what you had. That knowledge builds peace of mind. When you live this way, people around you change too. They notice your standards, and some will feel challenged by them. Some will rise with you, others will fall away. Either way, you attract a different circle, people who also value effort, growth, and discipline. These relationships become part of the better life you're trying to create. You stop attracting mediocrity because your own habits no longer accept it. You must also understand that demanding higher effort in small tasks is not about perfectionism. Perfectionism paralyzes people because they're afraid of making mistakes. What we're talking about is a different mindset, one that says, I will give the best I can in this moment. Sometimes the result won't be perfect, but the effort will always be there. That consistent effort is what builds progress over time. If you look closely, life rewards people who go beyond the minimum. Employers reward them, families trust them, opportunities seek them, and even they themselves feel a deeper satisfaction. There is an invisible line between average and excellent, and that line is drawn by effort. Every small task is a chance to practice crossing that line. So how do you apply this? Start today. Take the next small task in front of you and raise your effort. If you're writing something, write it with more care. If you're exercising, push yourself for one more repetition. If you're cleaning your home, do it thoroughly. If you're speaking with someone, give them your full attention. Don't wait for a special occasion. Use the ordinary moments to practice extraordinary effort. Over time, this becomes who you are. When you demand higher effort from yourself in every small task, you are not just changing what you do, you are changing who you become. You build a stronger identity, one that refuses mediocrity, and from that identity flows a better life. Success is not created by random big moments. Success is created by the accumulation of small moments, done with higher effort. And that is within your control every single day. Chapter 4. Choose relationships that match the standards you expect. The people you choose to keep close to you will either raise your life or lower it. Every relationship is an influence. Some relationships strengthen you, while others weaken you. If you want to raise your standards and build a better life, you must carefully choose relationships that reflect those same standards. This is not about being selective out of pride, it's about being protective of your growth. If you allow people into your life who live with low expectations, constant negativity, or careless habits, it won't be long before you begin lowering yourself to match them. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with individuals who live with integrity, discipline, respect, and ambition, you will naturally be pushed higher. Think about your daily environment. The conversations you hear, the attitudes you see, the actions people around you take, all of these shape what feels normal to you. If you are always around gossip, complaining, or excuses, that becomes the atmosphere you breathe. Over time you absorb it and it changes your mindset. But if you place yourself among people who value progress, honesty, and hard work, you start to believe that is the baseline of life. Standards are contagious. Whatever you allow into your circle eventually becomes your own measure of what is acceptable. That is why you must choose relationships that align with the standards you expect. It is not enough to raise your personal standards in isolation. You can set rules for yourself. You can demand more effort from yourself. But if you constantly spend time with those who pull you in the opposite direction, your growth will always be slowed. Human beings crave belonging. We want to fit in. So if you are in a group where laziness or negativity is the norm, you will unconsciously adapt just to feel accepted. The only way to truly protect your progress is to match yourself with people whose normal habits reflect the kind of life you want. This choice begins with honesty. Ask yourself, who in your life encourages you to be your best, and who encourages you to stay comfortable? Who challenges you to follow through on your word, and who makes excuses for you when you don't? Who celebrates your growth, and who feels threatened by it? These are not easy questions, but they reveal the reality of your circle. Some people you may have known for years, but time does not equal quality. A long history with someone does not mean they should continue to have influence over your future. Relationships must be measured by alignment with your standards, not just by shared past. Choosing relationships that match your standards does not mean expecting perfection from others. It means expecting alignment in values and direction. If your standard is respect, then you should not stay close to people who consistently disrespect you. If your standard is discipline, then you should not depend on people who encourage recklessness. If your standard is honesty, then you cannot keep trust with those who repeatedly lie. These are not small details, they are the foundation of the kind of life you are building. Sometimes the most difficult part of this process is letting go of relationships that no longer serve your growth. You may care deeply about someone, but if their lifestyle constantly drags you back to behaviors you've decided to leave behind, you have to make a choice. Do you remain loyal to comfort, or do you stay loyal to your vision? Growth always demands courage, and courage often means stepping away from the familiar. This does not mean you stop caring for people. It means you care enough about your own future to protect it. When you start choosing relationships that align with your standards, you will notice a shift. You will begin to attract new people into your life who reflect the way you want to live. People who value growth will notice you. People who take responsibility will respect you. People who have raised their own standards will welcome you into their world because they see you as one of them. This is how the cycle of attraction works. You don't just get a better life by wishing for it. You get a better life by aligning yourself with people who already live it. Relationships also provide accountability. You can set personal goals and personal rules, but when you share your life with people who are committed to growth, they don't let you forget. They remind you of your word. They push you when you get lazy. They call you out when you fall short. This is uncomfortable, but it is powerful. Without accountability, you may drift. With accountability, you rise. The people around you either hold you back or hold you up. Choose the ones who hold you up. There's another truth to consider. Relationships are mirrors. They reflect back to you the person you are becoming. If you spend time with someone who constantly criticizes others, you will soon notice yourself speaking in the same way. If you spend time with people who are constantly learning, you will soon find yourself inspired to learn more. Your circle becomes your reflection. If you want to see progress in your reflection, change the circle. Now, how do you make this choice in real life? Start by defining your non-negotiables. What values must someone have to be close to you? Respect, honesty, discipline, growth. Write them down clearly. Once you know what you expect, it becomes easier to see whether the people in your life meet those expectations. Without clarity, you will let anyone in. With clarity, you make deliberate choices. Then evaluate your current relationships with courage. Don't ignore red flags. If someone constantly breaks trust, that's a signal. If someone drains your energy every time you talk, that's a signal. If someone encourages you to lower your standards instead of raising them, that's a signal. These signals are telling you who belongs in your inner circle and who doesn't. Respect those signals. At the same time, be intentional about seeking out people who match your standards. They may not come easily. You might have to leave certain environments and enter new ones. You might have to join groups, attend events, or invest time in communities where growth-minded people gather. You may feel out of place at first, but that discomfort is a sign you are stepping into a higher environment. Over time, these relationships will feel natural because they align with the better life you are building. Understand this. Every important area of your life is shaped by relationships. Your career can accelerate if you are connected with people who expect excellence. Your health can improve if you spend time with people who value fitness. Your mindset can expand if you are surrounded by people who speak possibility instead of limitation. Your confidence can rise if your friends encourage your wins instead of mocking them. Every relationship has a ripple effect, and when you choose the right ones, The ripples create waves of transformation. The quality of your relationships also influences how you see yourself. When people around you treat you with respect, you begin to respect yourself more deeply. When they push you to aim higher, you begin to believe you can achieve more. When they remind you of your discipline, you feel stronger. Relationships do not just affect how you act, they affect how you see yourself. And how you see yourself determines what kind of life you create. Sometimes people hold on to relationships out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of losing history, fear of change. But loneliness surrounded by the wrong people is worse than being alone with your standards intact. You cannot attract a better life by clinging to relationships that contradict the values you are trying to live by. Better relationships require space. You must clear out what doesn't belong so that what does belong can enter. There is also responsibility on your side. If you want people in your life who match high standards, you must be a person who lives by those standards. If you want honest friends, you must practice honesty. If you want disciplined people, you must live with discipline. If you want supportive relationships, you must give support. Like attracts like. You cannot demand from others what you refuse to give yourself. The work of choosing relationships that match your standards is not easy, but it is necessary. The higher you go, the more selective you must become. This doesn't mean you look down on others. It means you protect your energy, your vision, and your future. Your life is too valuable to be shaped by people who don't respect what you're building. At the end of the day, you are responsible for who sits at your table. Every conversation, every interaction, every influence is either lifting you or lowering you. If you want to attract a better life, fill your table with those who lift. Build connections with people who demand as much from themselves as you demand from yourself. Choose friends who challenge you to be better, mentors who show you what's possible, and partners who share your commitment to growth. When you do this, life begins to change. You feel lighter because you are not dragged down by negative energy. You feel stronger because the people around you push you to grow. You feel more confident because your circle confirms the standards you have chosen. And most importantly, you feel aligned. Your relationships match the life you are building. That alignment creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. If you are serious about raising your standards, you must be just as serious about the relationships you allow into your life. The right people will inspire you. The wrong people will limit you. Make the choice today to align your relationships with the standards you expect, because when your relationships rise, your entire life rises with them.
Chapter 5. Stop lowering your standards to fit weak environments. One of the greatest mistakes people make in life is lowering their standards just to fit into environments that are beneath what they truly deserve. It often starts quietly, without much thought. You walk into a workplace where the culture is lazy, where people do the minimum, and soon you begin to do the same just to blend in. You yearn time in a group of friends who waste their days on gossip, negativity, and distractions, and little by little, you become part of it even though you know you are meant for more. You stay in relationships where respect is absent, and over time you convince yourself that this is normal. But every time you lower your standards to fit weak environments, you lose a piece of your identity, and with enough compromise, you can forget who you really are. You cannot live a better life if you constantly adapt to what is weak around you. Environments have power. They influence how you think, how you feel, and how you act. If the environment is strong, disciplined, and focused, it pushes you to rise. If the environment is weak, careless, and negative, it slowly pulls you down. And here's the trap. You may not notice the decline right away. You convince yourself you are only adjusting temporarily, but months and years later, you look back and realize you became someone you never intended to be. You have to ask yourself what matters more, fitting in or living true to the standards you know will create a better future. Weak environments can make mediocrity look normal. They can make you feel strange for being disciplined. They can make you feel out of place for wanting more. But that is exactly why you must stand firm. If you give in, you allow the environment to dictate your life. If you hold your ground, you prove that your standards are stronger than your surroundings. Think of how many people stay small because they are afraid of standing out. They lower their ambition so their friends don't feel uncomfortable. They lower their energy so they don't make others look bad. They lower their values so they don't get criticized. But every time you do this, you betray yourself. You are essentially saying, I will become less than I am capable of, so that others don't feel challenged. That is a dangerous way to live, because it means your life is being designed by fear instead of vision. You will face moments where the easy choice is to blend in. At work, you might see everyone taking shortcuts. You will be tempted to take the same shortcuts just to avoid conflict. In your personal life, you may see everyone settling for less, staying comfortable instead of growing. You will be tempted to stay comfortable too. But if you ever want to create a life that is better than average, you cannot live by average standards, and you certainly cannot let weak environments decide what becomes acceptable for you. The key is to become aware of the environments that influence you. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time in certain places or with certain people. Do you feel energized or drained? Do you feel motivated or distracted? Do you feel proud of yourself or disappointed? These emotions are signals. They are telling you whether the environment is pulling you up or pulling you down. And once you see it, you have to make a choice. You can either protect your standards or watch them slowly erode. Protecting your standards takes courage, because it means being willing to stand alone if necessary. It means being the one person at work who gives full effort even when others slack off. It means being the one person in your group who says no to gossip. It means being the one person in your family who chooses growth when everyone else prefers comfort. At first, this feels uncomfortable. People may look at you as if you think you're better than them. They may even try to shame you back into lowering your standards. But the discomfort passes. What stays is the pride of knowing you refuse to compromise. And when you refuse to compromise, something powerful happens. You begin to attract new environments that match your strength. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach begin to notice you. People who value discipline and ambition begin to connect with you. Doors open because you stood firm when it would have been easier to bend. Life has a way of rewarding those who protect their standards, even when the environment tries to weaken them. But you cannot wait until you feel ready. If you say, I will raise my standards once the environment improves, you will wait forever. Weak environments rarely improve on their own. They improve when one person decides to stop playing small. They improve when someone introduces a new level of excellence and refuses to back down. That someone can be you. And even if the environment never changes, you will have changed by refusing to let it define you. Consider what happens to your self-image when you consistently lower your standards. You begin to believe that mediocrity is your identity. You stop expecting much from yourself. You stop demanding effort, and soon you lose the belief that you are capable of more. This is why compromise is so dangerous. It doesn't just affect what you do, it affects how you see yourself. And when your self-image drops, everything in your life drops with it. On the other hand, consider what happens when you hold firm. Every time you stay true to your standards in a weak environment, you strengthen your identity. You prove to yourself that you can be trusted. You show yourself that your values are not for sale. That kind of self-respect builds confidence that no environment can take away. And with that confidence, you walk into new spaces with authority. You carry yourself differently. People can sense it. That energy alone attracts better environments and better opportunity. You have to decide right now that no environment will ever make you smaller than you are capable of being. That decision alone can change the entire direction of your life. Because once you decide, you begin to notice every place where you have been compromised. You see where you've allowed negativity to linger. You see where you've allowed laziness to become normal. You see where you've been tolerating disrespect, and the moment you see it, you can change it. This may mean distancing yourself from people who don't share your vision. It may mean leaving a job where your standards are punished instead of rewarded. It may mean spending less time in places where growth is mocked. These choices are not easy. They come with discomfort, but that discomfort is nothing compared to the pain of living below your potential for years, just to fit in. The truth is that weak environments are everywhere. You cannot avoid them all, but you can control how you respond to them. You can decide that no matter where you are, your standards remain the same. You can decide that your effort, your discipline, your respect, your values do not change just because the people around you don't share them. That consistency is what separates those who rise from those who settle. If you want to live a better life, you cannot keep lowering yourself to match environments that refuse to grow. You have to be willing to raise yourself above them. And when you do, you send a powerful signal, not just to others, but to yourself. You declare that your future is not for sale. You declare that your standards are not negotiable. You declare that you will not shrink to fit in. That declaration is what creates strength. It's what builds character. And it's what attracts the kind of life most people only dream of. Because life doesn't give its best to those who compromise. Life gives its best to those who demand it by living with unshakable standards, no matter where they are placed. So stop lowering your standards to fit weak environments. Stand tall even if you stand alone. Stay disciplined even if others mock you. Choose respect even if it feels unpopular. Keep your vision clear even if nobody around you shares it. And one day, you will look back and realize that your refusal to compromise was the very thing that gave you the better life you were seeking all along.
Chapter 6. Expect discipline from yourself to create a stronger future. If you want a stronger future, you must begin with discipline. Discipline is not something you turn on when life gets tough. It is the foundation you build every single day. Without discipline, talent gets wasted. Without discipline, dreams stay as dreams. Without discipline, potential fades away. The future does not improve by chance. It improves by structure, by responsibility, and by daily choices that require discipline. The mistake many people make is expecting growth while living without rules. They want success while giving in to distraction. They want health while ignoring consistency. They want freedom while living without restraint. That gap between what they want and how they live is always filled by one missing factor: discipline. Discipline means you expect more from yourself than temporary comfort. It means you push yourself to follow through even when you don't feel like it. Most people wait for motivation to arrive before they take action, but motivation is unreliable. Some mornings it's there, other mornings it's not. Discipline doesn't ask whether you're motivated. Discipline tells you what must be done and expects you to do it. When you hold yourself to discipline, you stop negotiating with weakness. You stop giving yourself endless chances to delay. You stop living as if tomorrow will always be there to rescue you. Discipline makes you act today. A stronger future is not built overnight. It is built by repeated habits. Discipline is what guarantees those habits happen. If you want health, discipline makes you exercise when it's easier to stay on the couch. If you want financial freedom, discipline makes you save and invest when spending feels tempting. If you want meaningful relationships, discipline makes you listen and show respect when irritation wants to take control. Every strong future is the result of 1,000 disciplined actions that may seem small at the time, but add up to transformation. Without discipline, all you have are good intentions.
With discipline, you have results. Discipline is also proof of self-respect. When you expect discipline from yourself, you're telling yourself that your future matters. You're telling yourself that your word is important. Every time you follow through with discipline, you strengthen trust in yourself. And when you trust yourself, you carry confidence into every part of life. Confidence is not built by talking positively to yourself. It is built by watching yourself follow through. If you say you'll wake up early and you do, you believe in yourself more. If you say you'll complete your work with full focus and you do, you grow stronger. Each act of discipline adds a brick to the structure of your self-belief. The future belongs to those who control their daily action. Discipline is that control. Think of how easily life can spiral without it. Sleep patterns collapse. Energy drops. Money disappears. Opportunities are wasted. Relationships weaken. All of it begins with small lapses in discipline that turn into patterns. On the other hand, think of the stability discipline creates. You know you will exercise, so your health becomes stronger. You know you will study, so your knowledge increases. You know you will work hard, so your career advances. You know you will respect others, so your relationships deepen. Discipline is the invisible system that secures the future. One of the challenges people face with discipline is that it feels restrictive. They think it takes away freedom. The opposite is true. Discipline creates freedom. If you discipline yourself to manage money, you are free from debt. If you discipline yourself to exercise, you are free from sickness. If you discipline yourself to focus, you are free from regret about wasted time. Lack of discipline feels free in the moment, but traps you in the long term. Real freedom belongs to the disciplined, not the careless. To expect discipline from yourself means you stop tolerating excuses. Excuses are easy to make, and they sound reasonable when spoken. But excuses always end with the same result: no progress. The truth is that excuses are simply permission slips we give ourselves to stay weak. Discipline doesn't ask for excuses. Discipline demands solutions. If you're tired, discipline says rest earlier. If you're distracted, discipline says remove the distraction. If you're behind, discipline says put in the extra hours. Discipline is not cruel. It is honest. It does not allow you to lie to yourself about why you're not growing. A stronger future is not only about success in big areas like career or finances. It's about the strength of your character. Discipline shapes that character. If you discipline yourself to tell the truth even when lying is easier, your character grows. If you discipline yourself to remain calm when anger would be simpler, your character strengthens. If you discipline yourself to keep promises even when nobody is watching, your integrity deepens. These qualities build the kind of future where people trust you, respect you, and want to work with you. Discipline is not something you wait to feel. It is something you decide. Every morning when you wake up, you make a choice. Live by discipline or live by mood. Discipline requires preparation. It requires that you set routines, plan your priorities, and decide what matters before distractions appear. Without preparation, discipline weakens under pressure. With preparation, discipline stands firm. That's why people with strong futures often live by structured routine. They don't leave the day to chance. They guide it with discipline. You must also understand that discipline compounds over time. A single act of discipline may not change much, but repeated over weeks, months, and years, the impact is enormous. One disciplined decision to save money builds financial independence later. One disciplined decision to study each day builds expertise over time. One disciplined decision to work out daily builds health for years. Weak people look for instant results. Strong people commit to disciplined habits that eventually create results too big to ignore. The most important reason to expect discipline from yourself is that nobody else can do it for you. Coaches can motivate you, friends can encourage you, mentors can guide you, but at the end of the day, you are the one who must decide to follow through. If you rely on others to push you, you'll never be free. But if you learn to demand discipline from yourself, you become unstoppable. You no longer wait for someone to hold you accountable because your own standards hold you accountable. You also need discipline when life becomes difficult. It's easy to stay consistent when everything feels good, but true discipline is proven during challenge. When pressure is high, discipline keeps you steady. When setbacks happen, discipline keeps you moving forward. When fear appears, discipline keeps you acting in line with your standards. Without it, difficulties break you. With it, difficulties shape you. A stronger future will always require walking through challenges, and discipline is the only way you make it through. There will be times when you fail, when you break your own rules, when you give in to weakness. Discipline does not mean perfection. It means refusing to quit. When you fall, you get back up immediately and re-establish discipline. Too many people give up the moment they slip, as if one mistake erases all progress. But discipline means returning to your standards no matter how many times you slip. That resilience is what creates strength over time. Your future depends on the habits you create today. Every decision, every routine, every action is shaping what's ahead. If you expect discipline from yourself now, you secure strength later. If you allow weakness now, you create regret later. Life is always giving you a choice, discipline or regret. You can't escape that choice. The question is, which price you are willing to pay, the price of discipline today, or the price of regret tomorrow. Discipline may feel heavy in the moment, but regret weighs much more. Regret lingers, regret steals joy, regret limits opportunity. Discipline, on the other hand, builds pride, builds trust, builds stability. When you end a day, knowing you gave your best, you sleep with peace. That peace adds strength to tomorrow. And the more you stack disciplined days together, the more unstoppable your future becomes. So expect discipline from yourself. Not sometimes, but always. Not only when it's easy, but especially when it's difficult. Make it non-negotiable. Set the standard that your actions will reflect discipline in health, in work, in relationships, in finances, and in personal growth. Hold yourself accountable to that standard every single day. The stronger future you want will not arrive by waiting, wishing, or hoping. It will arrive because you built it with discipline. Discipline is the difference between living with potential and living with power. It is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And the moment you decide to expect it from yourself, your future begins to transform.
Chapter 7. Attract success by holding yourself to higher expectations. Success does not come to people who lower their expectations and wait for life to hand them something better. Success is attracted to people who hold themselves to higher expectations in everything they do. When you expect more from yourself, you naturally begin to act in a way that demands results. You begin to live with a level of seriousness that most people never reach, and that seriousness changes everything about how you work, how you think, and how you grow. Higher expectations create a sense of urgency and accountability that average standards never will. When you demand more, you attract more because your actions align with the outcomes you want. Holding yourself to higher expectations means you stop giving yourself permission to do the bare minimum. Too often people say they want success, but live with the standard of survival. They want wealth, but expect very little from how they manage their money. They want respect, but expect very little from how they communicate with others. They want freedom, but expect very little from how they use their time.
You cannot create a better life when your expectations of yourself are set at the level of comfort. If you raise them, if you expect more, your daily behavior shifts immediately. The truth is that most people set expectations based on their surroundings. If the people around them are lazy, they accept laziness. If the people around them are careless, they accept carelessness. But real growth begins when you stop matching your standards to your environment and begin setting them based on the future you want. This means, if your vision is success, then your expectations must be aligned with discipline, consistency, and excellence. You can no longer afford to tell yourself, "This is good enough." Good enough doesn't attract success. Higher expectations do. When you live with higher expectations, you start to look at the details differently. You pay attention to how you spend each hour. You take ownership of the way you present yourself. You care about the quality of your work even when no one is watching. These details may seem small to someone who lives by average expectations, but they are not small to someone who has chosen to raise their standard. Higher expectations shape habits, and habits shape destiny. One of the strongest benefits of expecting more from yourself is that it eliminates excuses. Excuses are only possible when expectations are low. If you expect little, then any reason is enough to justify why you didn't do better. But when you hold yourself to higher expectations, excuses no longer satisfy you. You begin to recognize that every excuse is just a way to avoid responsibility, and responsibility is non-negotiable if you want success. Higher expectations demand ownership. You don't point fingers. You don't blame circumstances. You don't look for someone else to carry the weight. You accept that your results are your responsibility. There is also a psychological power that comes with raising expectations. Humans live in alignment with what they believe is possible for them. If your expectations of yourself are low, you unconsciously act in ways that keep you small. But when you expect greatness from yourself, your mind begins to search for ways to meet that standard. It's not about arrogance. It's about deciding that you will no longer tolerate mediocrity from yourself. This decision transforms your confidence. You stop asking if you can, and start asking how you can. That shift in mindset alone changes the direction of your life. Success is attracted to consistency, and consistency is born from expectation. If you expect to show up every day with focus, you will. If you expect to improve your skills regularly, you will. If you expect to give more than others think necessary, you will. And when you live like this, opportunities start to notice you. People around you see your reliability, your discipline, your seriousness, and they respond to it. Promotions, partnerships, trust, and influence flow toward those who prove that their standards are higher. It doesn't happen instantly, but it happens inevitably. High expectations also protect you from being satisfied with comfort. Comfort is the enemy of progress, because it convinces you that where you are is enough. But if you expect more, you keep pushing beyond comfort. You challenge yourself to grow, to learn, to try harder, to stretch into areas you once avoided. High expectations push you to demand that your today is always better than your yesterday. That kind of mindset creates unstoppable growth. Think about your health. If your expectation is simply not to get sick, then your effort will be minimal. But if your expectation is to live with strength, energy, and vitality, then your choices in food, exercise, and sleep change immediately. Think about your career. If your expectation is just to keep your job, you will do what is required, and nothing more. But if your expectation is to become excellent in your field, then you approach your work with a different level of effort and learning. The expectation you set determines the life you create. Some people will tell you not to set your expectations too high because you may be disappointed. But the real disappointment is living a life that never challenged you to grow. Failure is not the enemy. Low expectations are the enemy. Failure can teach you, it can strengthen you, it can direct you, but low expectations rob you of even trying. The person who fails while holding high expectations is still far ahead of the person who never aimed higher in the first place. When you hold yourself to higher expectations, you begin to demand accountability, not only in your results, but in your process. You measure your effort, you review your habits, you analyze your choices, you no longer accept sloppy work or wasted time. You check yourself, you correct yourself, you discipline yourself. And this accountability becomes a way of life. It creates a reputation for reliability and strength. Success is not drawn to people who live without standards. It is drawn to people who demand a higher level from themselves in every area. Of course, living with higher expectations is not easy. It means you will face resistance from people who are comfortable living small. They may criticize you, they may call you too serious, they may even try to pull you back down. But you must remember that their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to your future, not their comfort. Holding yourself to higher expectations will cost you some friendships, some opportunities, and some acceptance. But what you gain is worth far more. Self-respect, progress, and the life you truly desire. Every area of your life can be lifted by higher expectations. In your finances, it means expecting yourself to save, invest, and manage wisely instead of living recklessly. In your relationships, it means expecting honesty, loyalty, and respect instead of tolerating neglect or disrespect. In your personal growth, it means expecting yourself to learn continuously, to expand your knowledge, to strengthen your mindset. In your daily habits, it means expecting yourself to use time productively instead of wasting it on distractions. Each of these choices, when guided by higher expectations, builds momentum towards success. A stronger future cannot be built with weak expectations. If you want to attract success, you must live with a vision of yourself that demands more than average. That vision becomes the standard you hold yourself to, and that standard becomes the magnet that pulls success into your life. Success is not given. It is attracted, and it is attracted to the person who shows through their daily actions that they will not settle for less than their potential. So, raise the bar. Expect more from the way you live, the way you work, the way you speak, and the way you think. Stop accepting results that fall below your true capacity. Push yourself beyond what is comfortable. Trust that higher expectations, even though they are demanding, will lead you to opportunities that low standards will never touch. When you hold yourself to higher expectations, you no longer wait for life to improve. You create the conditions that make improvement unavoidable. And when you do this consistently, success becomes the natural outcome of the person you have chosen to become.
Chapter 8. Build a better life by raising daily performance standards. If you want to build a better life, you must start by raising the standards you hold yourself to every single day. Life doesn't improve by accident. It improves when you choose to approach your daily performance with seriousness and clarity. Most people look at their goals and imagine a future where everything is different, but they fail to recognize that the bridge between where they are and where they want to be is built one day at a time. If the quality of your daily performance is low, the future will reflect that. If the quality of your daily performance is high, the future will reflect that too. The strongest predictor of a better life is the standard of effort, focus, and responsibility you bring to each day. Raising your daily performance standards means you no longer tolerate careless effort.
You no longer settle for good enough. You no longer tell yourself that showing up halfway is acceptable. Instead, you begin to demand that everything you do, no matter how routine, is done with commitment and excellence. The way you handle your morning routine, the way you show up to work, the way you maintain your health, the way you treat your relationships, each of these areas must reflect higher standards if you want to see growth. The difference between ordinary lives and extraordinary ones is not one big event, it's the way each day is lived. The challenge for most people is that they underestimate the impact of one day. They believe that skipping discipline for one day doesn't matter, that delivering weak effort for one day won't make a difference, that lowering their standards for one day won't have consequences. And they're right in the short term. It may not show up today, but daily neglect repeated consistently builds weakness. Just as raising standards daily builds strength, you cannot ignore the compounding power of small actions. Every day matters, every performance matters. Every choice is a piece of the life you are building. When you raise your daily performance standards, you begin to value time differently. You stop treating hours as if they are disposable. You stop wasting your mornings in distraction, your afternoons in procrastination, and your evenings in regret. Instead, you protect your hours, you direct your focus, and you put your energy into actions that serve your future. You understand that each day is an investment. If you invest it poorly, you lose it forever. If you invest it wisely, it continues to pay you back in opportunities, growth, and confidence. Higher performance standards also sharpen your habits. Habits are nothing more than repeated actions. If your daily actions are sloppy, your habits will be sloppy. If your daily actions are strong, your habits will be strong. Raising standards means asking yourself, how can I do this task better? How can I do it with more focus, more effort, more discipline? That question alone transforms the way you move through your day. Instead of rushing through life on autopilot, you live with intention. That intention compounds into progress, and progress builds a better life. Another powerful effect of raising daily performance standards is that it changes how you see yourself. When you demand more from yourself every day, you begin to build pride in who you are becoming. You no longer see yourself as someone who barely gets by, but as someone who delivers consistently, who can be trusted, who takes life seriously. That inner pride fuels confidence, and confidence is the foundation of taking on bigger challenges. The stronger your daily standards, the stronger your self-image. The stronger your self-image, the greater your belief in what's possible. It's important to understand that raising standards does not mean perfection. It does not mean you never make mistakes or never have off days. It means you don't allow those off days to become the norm. It means you push yourself to recover quickly, to get back on track, to return to your standards without delay. Everyone stumbles, but not everyone gets back up quickly. High daily standards demand that you do. That difference separates those who grow from those who stagnate. Daily performance standards should cover every area of life. For your health, it might mean expecting yourself to eat clean, to move your body, to get proper rest. For your work, it might mean expecting yourself to be prepared, to meet deadlines, to go beyond the minimum. For your relationships, it might mean expecting yourself to listen carefully, to show respect, to give attention. For your personal growth, it might mean expecting yourself to read, to study, to reflect. These are not small rules, they are the architecture of a better life. When lived daily, they create transformation over time. You will notice that raising your standards changes how others see you. People respect consistency. They trust reliability. They admire excellence. When you hold yourself to high daily standards, people recognize it, even if they don't say it. They see the way you work, the way you carry yourself, the way you honor your word. This reputation attracts better opportunities and better relationships. People want to be around someone who takes life seriously, because it inspires them to do the same. There is also the personal satisfaction that comes with high daily standards. At the end of the day, you know whether you gave your best or not. If you delivered weak effort, you feel it. If you delivered strong effort, you feel it too. That inner scorecard matters more than anything else. It builds or destroys your self-respect. When you go to bed each night, knowing you demanded higher performance from yourself, you rest with peace. That peace turns into energy for tomorrow, and that cycle of pride and peace builds momentum that can carry you through the hardest time. One of the traps people fall into is comparing themselves to others instead of comparing themselves to their own potential. They say, I work harder than most people I know, so I'm doing fine. But your life is not built by their standards. It's built by your standard. If you know you're capable of more than others is still less than your best. Raising your daily performance standards means you stop competing with the crowd and start competing with yourself. You measure today against yesterday, and you demand improvement. That relentless focus on raising your own bar is what makes you unstoppable. To build a better life, you must also remove the behaviors that drag your standards down. Procrastination, distraction, carelessness. These are daily enemies. They may not seem like much in the moment, but they destroy momentum. Raising standards means refusing to indulge them. It means catching yourself when you slip into wasteful patterns and pulling yourself back to focus. It means not letting entertainment eat your hours, not letting laziness steal your opportunities, not letting weak habits write your future. Every moment of discipline is a moment of protection. You protect your time, your energy, your focus, and in doing so you protect your future. High daily performance standards also build resilience. When challenges come, you are already prepared because your daily habits have trained you. You are used to doing hard things. You are used to showing up consistently. You are used to demanding effort, even when you don't feel like it. That training becomes invaluable in times of difficulty. People who live with low standards crumble under pressure because they have no foundation. People who live with high standards endure because discipline is already part of their identity. It is also important to recognize that raising your daily performance standards does not just change your results. It changes your experience of life itself. When you take each task seriously, you live with more meaning. When you give your best effort in conversations, you build deeper connections. When you use your time with intention, you feel less regret. When you honor your commitments, you feel more respect for yourself. Life becomes richer because you are no longer drifting through it half-away. You are present, engaged, and purposeful. The beauty of raising your standards is that anyone can do it. You don't need wealth, special connections, or extraordinary talent. You only need the decision to expect more from yourself each day. Start with what you have. Use the opportunities already in front of you. The way you handle today determines whether bigger opportunities come tomorrow. If you treat today casually, tomorrow will bring nothing new. If you treat today seriously, tomorrow will expand with possibility. So if you want to build a better life, raise your daily performance standards. Hold yourself accountable to excellence in every task, no matter how small. Use each day as a chance to prove to yourself that you are serious about your future. Stop wasting time, stop settling for average, stop lowering your effort. Choose to demand more, to act with focus, to live with discipline. Over time, these daily choices compound into strength, into confidence, into success. And one day, you will look back and realize that the life you wanted was built, not by a single big moment, but by the standard you brought to every single day.
Chapter 9. Refuse to accept anything that disrespects your standards. If you are serious about raising your life, then you must come to a place where you refuse to accept anything that disrespects your standards. Your standards are the foundation of who you are. They represent what you value, what you tolerate, and what you demand from yourself and others. The moment you allow something into your life that contradicts those standards, you begin to weaken the very structure that holds your future together. And the danger is that it rarely happens all at once. It begins with small compromises,
quiet allowances, and moments where you tell yourself it's not a big deal. But every time you let something slide that disrespects your standards, you train yourself to believe that your values are negotiable. Life will always test the boundaries you set. People will push against them. Circumstances will challenge them, and even your own emotions will tempt you to bend them. If your standards are not firm, they will collapse under pressure. If they are strong, you will hold steady. Refusing to accept disrespect toward your standards is not about arrogance. It is about self-respect. It is about declaring to yourself and the world, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and this is what I will not allow. Without that firmness, you invite chaos, disappointment, and regret. With it you build order, strength, and clarity. Think about relationships. If your standard is respect, yet you allow someone to speak to you with contempt, you have lowered your bar. If your standard is honesty, yet you tolerate lies and excuses, you have lowered your bar. If your standard is loyalty, yet you continue to surround yourself with people who betray your trust, you have lowered your bar. And each time you lower your bar, you send a signal to yourself and to others that your values are flexible. But if you refuse to accept anything less than respect, honesty, and loyalty, you not only protect yourself, you attract people who naturally align with those qualities. The same truth applies in your personal habits. If your standard is discipline, but you consistently allow yourself to break commitments, skip responsibilities, and fall into laziness, you are disrespecting your own value. Refusing to accept disrespect means you don't allow even yourself to violate the rules you have set for your growth. You hold yourself accountable when you fall short. You correct your behavior. You realign quickly. The discipline of refusing disrespect begins internally before it ever applies externally. One of the greatest challenges you will face is that saying no to disrespect often means facing discomfort. It might mean walking away from a relationship you've invested years into. It might mean leaving a job where you are undervalued. It might mean confronting people who have gotten used to crossing your boundaries. None of this feels easy, but every time you choose comfort over standards, you pay for it later with regret. Regret is the cost of tolerating disrespect. Strength is the reward for refusing it. When you enforce your standards, people will reveal their true nature. Some will respect you more. They will see that you value yourself and they will treat you accordingly. Others will resist. They will push back, criticize you, or even leave. At first this may feel like loss, but in truth it is gain, because what you are losing are the people, environments, and influences that were never meant to shape your best future. By refusing disrespect, you clear space for alignment, and alignment always attracts better opportunities, better people, and better outcomes. You must also realize that refusing disrespect does not mean you fight every battle. It does not mean you argue with every critic or confront every negative comment. It means you protect your energy by choosing where you place yourself. If an environment constantly drags you down, you don't stay there hoping it changes. You leave. If a person consistently disrespects your values, you don't beg them to see your worth. You move on. The refusal is not about endless conflict. It is about clear decisions. There will always be voices that tell you to settle. They will tell you that high standards make life harder. They will tell you that you are being too strict, too demanding, too rigid. But understand this: people who live with low standards will always try to convince you to join them. Your job is not to argue with them. Your job is to protect your vision. A life of strength, fulfillment, and success cannot be built on weak foundations. Your standards are that foundation. The moment you let them be disrespected, you weaken the entire structure. Consider how much of your life is influenced by what you accept. You teach others how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you accept lateness, people will arrive late. If you accept broken promises, people will stop taking their word seriously. If you accept carelessness in your own work, you will get used to mediocrity. But when you refuse to accept these things, when you hold the line, when you make it clear that your standards are not open to negotiation, you force both yourself and others to rise to meet them. Refusing disrespect also builds clarity in your decision-making. Many people are indecisive because they have no strong standards guiding them. They wonder what to do in every situation. They hesitate. They second-guess themselves. But if your standards are clear, the choice becomes obvious. If respect is a non-negotiable, then any relationship without it is not an option. If integrity is a non-negotiable, then any action that compromises it is not an option. Standards simplify life because they remove uncertainty. They turn difficult decisions into simple ones. Another benefit is that strong standards create peace of mind. When you accept disrespect, you feel uneasy. Deep inside, you know you are betraying yourself. You know you are settling for less than you deserve. That inner conflict eats away at your confidence. But when you refuse disrespect, you feel aligned. You feel proud. You feel a sense of stability, because your life reflects your values. That pride builds momentum, and momentum is the key to transformation. This principle applies in every area: your health, your career, your relationships, your growth. In health, refusing disrespect might mean not allowing yourself to fill your body with food that harms. In career, refusing disrespect might mean not staying silent in a workplace where you are constantly overlooked. In relationships, refusing disrespect might mean cutting ties with people who belittle your goal. In growth, refusing disrespect might mean not allowing yourself to go weeks without learning, reading, or improving. Each refusal protects the future you are building. It is important to note that refusing disrespect does not make life easier in the short term. It often makes it harder. It requires courage to walk away, discipline to enforce your own rules, and strength to endure criticism. But in the long run, it makes life better, because the cost of compromise is always heavier than the cost of discipline. Compromise eats at your identity. Discipline reinforces it. You must begin seeing your standards as sacred. They are not just guidelines. They are commitments. Commitments to yourself. Commitments to your growth. Commitments to the life you want to create. If you treat them as optional, you will live an optional life. One that drifts. One that settles. One that disappoints. But if you treat them as sacred, you will live with purpose, with strength, with clarity. And from that foundation, a better life becomes not only possible but inevitable. So take a hard look at your life right now. Where have you allowed disrespect to slip in? Where have you been tolerating less than you deserve? Where have you been betraying your own standards? Be honest, because honesty is the first step toward change. Then make the decision right here, right now, that you will no longer accept it, that you will no longer let disrespect guide your choices, that you will no longer bend to weakness. This decision alone can transform the path you're on. The truth is that life gives you what you're willing to tolerate. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll receive more of it. If you refuse it, you'll force the world to meet you at your level. The life you dream of does not require you to be perfect, but it does require you to be firm in your values, firm in your boundaries, firm in your standards. Refuse to accept anything less, and you'll find yourself rising above the environments, people and habits that once held you down. That strength is what builds a future worth living.
Chapter 10. Raise your mindset until your life finally improves. If you want your life to improve, you must begin with your mindset. Everything you experience, every decision you make, every action you take, all of it starts with how you think. If your mindset is small, your life will stay small. If your mindset is weak,
your life will stay weak. But if you raise your mindset, if you demand strength, clarity and discipline in the way you think, your life will inevitably rise to match it. The truth is that people don't fail because they lack opportunities. They fail because their thinking never rises above their circumstances. They stay locked in the same patterns of thought, and those patterns keep producing the same results. Raising your mindset is not about temporary motivation. It is about rewiring the way you approach life. It means refusing to see yourself as limited and beginning to see yourself as capable of more. It means refusing to dwell on excuses and instead training your mind to search for solutions. It means refusing to see obstacles as permanent and instead choosing to see them as tests that strengthen you. A higher mindset does not remove difficulty, but it transforms how you respond to difficulty. That response is what separates those who stay stuck from those who move forward. Your life cannot improve if your thoughts stay the same. Many people want better health, stronger relationships, financial freedom, or deeper fulfillment, but they never raise the level of their thinking. They still think in terms of what is comfortable, what is easy, what is familiar. But comfort, ease, and familiarity do not build a better life. You must stretch your thinking to a new level. You must expect more of yourself mentally before you can expect more of yourself physically. Raising your mindset also means raising the language you use with yourself. Words matter. If you constantly tell yourself, "I can't, I'm not good enough, it's too hard," then your actions will follow that pattern. But if you begin to tell yourself, "I will, I am capable, I will figure it out," you shift the entire direction of your choices. The words you repeat become the beliefs you hold. The beliefs you hold become the actions you take, and the actions you take become the results you live with. By raising the language of your mind, you raise the standards of your life. One of the strongest ways to raise your mindset is to take full responsibility for everything in your life. The weak mindset blames others, blames luck, blames circumstance, but the strong mindset says, "If it happened, it's my responsibility to learn from it, to grow from it, to change what I can." This shift is powerful because it gives you control. As long as you blame, you hand your power away. As soon as you take responsibility, you reclaim it. That control allows you to shape your life with purpose instead of letting it be shaped by chance. Another essential part of raising your mindset is raising the level of what you focus on. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. If you constantly focus on problems, you magnify them. If you constantly focus on setbacks, you feel defeated. But if you train your mind to focus on solutions, you build momentum. If you train your mind to focus on growth, you create progress. The circumstances may not change instantly, but your direction will. A raised mindset always looks at what can be done, not just what went wrong. You must also be careful about the influences that feed your mind. What you read, what you watch, what you listen to, and who you spend time with all shape your thinking. If you surround yourself with negativity, gossip, and distractions, your mindset weakens. If you surround yourself with learning, wisdom, and growth, your mindset strengthens. Raising your mindset requires being intentional about what you allow into your head. You cannot think stronger thoughts while feeding yourself weak input. Raising your mindset also demands patience. People often expect instant change. They start thinking positively for a week, and when nothing changes, they give up. But a higher mindset is built like a muscle. It requires repetition, practice, and consistency. Each day you push your mind to think stronger thoughts, to reject negativity, to choose responsibility. You are training it, and over time, that training builds a new identity. One day you will look back and realize that the person you used to be, the one who gave up easily, who avoided responsibility, who lived in excuses, no longer exists. Your environment will challenge your mindset. Life will test whether you really believe what you claim to believe. When difficulty comes, when setbacks appear, when failure shows up, you will have a choice. Will you drop back to the old way of thinking, or will you hold firm to your raised standards? These tests are not there to destroy you. They are there to confirm you. They reveal whether your mindset is truly strong, or only strong in theory. The more you pass these tests, the stronger your mental foundation becomes. A raised mindset also impacts how you handle success. Many people sabotage themselves when success begins to appear, because they still think like the old version of themselves. They don't believe they deserve it, so they push it away. But if you raise your mindset, you don't just survive success, you grow into it. You see it not as luck, but as the natural outcome of your standards. You use it as fuel to push further, not as a reason to stop. There is also a connection between mindset and identity. You live according to the story you tell yourself about who you are. If your story is weak, your life will be weak. If your story is strong, your life will reflect that strength. Raising your mindset requires rewriting your story. Stop saying, "I am just average," and start saying, "I am someone who expects excellence from myself." Stop saying, "I always struggle," and start saying, "I am someone who grows through challenges." The story you repeat becomes the reality you experience. Another important part of raising your mindset is raising the standard of discipline in your thought. Discipline is not just about actions, it is also about focus. When your mind wanders to fear, to doubt, to distraction, you must discipline it back to clarity. You must remind yourself of your goals, your values, your vision. This mental discipline creates strength. It prevents you from being pulled into every emotion or every setback. It anchors you to what matters most. When you raise your mindset, you also raise the kind of goals you set. A weak mindset sets goals that are safe and easy. A strong mindset sets goals that challenge, stretch, and demand growth. This shift matters because your goals shape your actions, and your actions shape your results. If your goals are too small, your life will remain small. But if your goals are high, and your mindset believes they are possible, you will push yourself further than you thought you could. The people you connect with also change when you raise your mindset. High standards of thinking attract people who think the same way. You will find yourself moving away from circles where complaining is normal, and moving toward circles where progress is normal. This is not just about networking, it is about alignment. Your mindset determines the kind of people you attract, and those people will either help you rise or keep you stuck. It's also important to recognize that raising your mindset is not about ignoring reality. It is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about choosing to interpret reality in a way that empowers you instead of weakens you. Two people can face the same situation. One sees defeat, the other sees opportunity. The situation is the same, but the mindset is different, and that difference determines who grows and who collapses. The ultimate reward of raising your mindset is freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from doubt, freedom from regret. When your thinking is strong, you no longer get trapped by temporary emotions. You no longer get stuck in old patterns. You no longer settle for less than what you deserve. You begin to live with clarity, with purpose, and with confidence. That freedom allows you to take risks, to seize opportunities, and to live a life that truly reflects your potential. So raise your mindset until your life finally improves. Challenge every thought that weakens you. Replace every excuse with responsibility. Feed your mind with learning, with wisdom, with strength. Surround yourself with people who think at a higher level. Demand discipline in your thoughts, as much as in your actions. Expect more from yourself mentally than you ever have before. When your mindset rises, your life has no choice but to rise with it. The transformation begins in your mind, and once you control that,
everything else follows. A better life is not built outside of you. It is built inside first, and then it shows up everywhere else.